Hello, I am Erin and you are listening to A Conversation with Erin. Today I'm going to be speaking about body dysmorphia. In all of its glory, it's something that I've struggled with my whole life, literally since I can remember. So we're going to go right back. We're going to go right up to now, how I cope with it now, because I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm at an okay place with my body, and I hope everybody who suffers with crippling body dysmorphia can get to this point. So, firstly, what is body dysmorphia? So, body dysmorphia is short for body dysmorphic disorder. It's a mental health condition where you spend a lot of time worrying about your appearance. Now, I think this isn't a very specific term for it. I think it is quite generalized, which isn't the most helpful thing in the world. So we're going to unpick it a little bit, because I think it's hard to distinguish what is the difference between body dysmorphia and just a bad body image day for somebody who may or may not suffer with body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphic disorder, unlike body image disturbance, which is bad body image, is when an individual is struggling with an overemphasis on a specific body part as opposed to someone who is unhappy with his or her body size or shape. Body image refers to how people see themselves. For example, with my body dysmorphia, no matter what I do or what I did physically to myself, I always saw myself the same as like this ugly person, and one minute I could look at myself and be like, I really like myself, and then the next minute I feel like I look completely different, whether that is 2 sizes bigger, my nose has grown, my hair looks bad, my makeup looks bad, like whatever it was, within the space of seconds I could see myself as a completely different person. Signs you might have body dysmorphic disorder: if you worry a lot about a specific area or body part, spend a lot of time comparing your looks with other people's, look at yourself in mirrors a lot or avoid mirrors altogether, go to a lot of effort to conceal flaws, for example by spending a lot of time combing your hair, applying makeup or choosing different clothes, pick at your skin to make it smooth. BDD can seriously affect your daily life, including your work, social life and relationships. Now, before I go further on into this, I want to say that what I'm talking about may be triggering. I will be referring to sizes, not specifically, but I'll be referring to things like bigger and smaller. And this is my own personal experience. I do not believe that people who are bigger than me are ugly, aren't attractive. It's my own personal view of myself. I don't want to trigger anyone. I don't want to upset anyone. And equally, I don't want people who are smaller than me to feel like they need to gain any of it. I don't want you to feel like you have to change or be offended by what I'm saying. It is just my own personal experiences, it's my own personal narrative in my head, and I'm sharing this to help you either feel seen or maybe get some advice and tips on how you can get to a better place, because I am probably in the best place with my body that I've ever been. If you are struggling with BDD, you can speak to your doctor. They might be able to refer you to support groups or give you some CBT. If you don't feel like you can do that, there are some charities. You've got Anxiety UK, International OCD Foundation, Mind, OCD Action, OCD UK, and Beat, the eating disorder charity. They will all be in the description below. If you do feel like you need support, they are there. So the first time I remember being aware of my body, I was 5 or 6, so I was really little. I remember being at my childminder's house, and she had in her hallway, she had like a mirror, a full-length mirror at the top of the stairs. I remember just looking in that mirror. I was squeezing my face, squeezing my stomach through my school uniform, pinching my arms, really intently staring at myself. And I remember thinking, God, this is what I look like. God, I'm real. God, this is what I look like. And this thought was repetitive over and over again, staring at myself. That's the first time I felt an awareness of my body and not feeling like I am in my body. I can't quite explain it. It felt like my body was an alien concept to me. Around that age as well was the first times I started comparing myself to my friends. So I would look at my friends and they would all be slimmer than me. And even if they weren't slimmer than me, I still felt like they were, or I was like, they're prettier than me, or they've got blonde hair, I hate my brown hair, or they've got really pretty eyes, I have ugly eyes, or they've got a really nice face shape, I have a really ugly face shape. Oh, they're skinnier, oh, I'm like not skinny. Oh, they've got feet that look like this, I want feet that look like that. I want hands that look like this. Like every single part of their body I wished I had, and wished my body to be different. And that was at the age of like 6. So I was really, really little, already having a very hyper awareness of the way I looked and the importance my body held. It was my appearance become the most important thing to me. That was never instilled in me growing up. It was just almost this innate feeling that I always had. Like my appearance was so huge to me right from a very small age. I felt like it was the be all and end all. And like I said, it was down to feet that I would compare myself and critique myself to other people, which is crazy. It's like wild now to think about this like 6-year-old feeling hatred towards her own feet. She's that insecure. And then I remember one time, I must have been like 7 or 8, sitting in the bath and realising I had rolls. I've always been very insecure of my stomach. I've never had a toned flat stomach. Even when I was at my smallest and unhealthiest, I still had a bit of a belly. It's the way I'm built. I've also got PCOS and Crohn's disease since I've become an adult, so that doesn't help. But my family, it's not in our genetics to be toned. You know, some people can be bigger and plus size but still have abs. Even when I've been at my skinniest, I will never have abs. And I remember sitting in this bath and just looking at my body, and there were scissors on the side. And I remember this thought going through my head of, what if I just cut off my stomach? What if I just cut off my stomach? And then when we were doing art in school, primary school, I remember the scissors, and I remember sitting down and really feeling my stomach pushed up against, like, I think it was my sundress. It was in the summer. And I remember like taking the scissors against my stomach and pushing them in. Not to cut myself, not to hurt myself, but just to imagine what it would feel like if I could just slice off my stomach. And that was age 7. I'd never grown up around people critiquing my body. I've always been told I was beautiful by my family. I've always been told I was gorgeous. Never ever been called fat, but I also wasn't fat. I wasn't a big child. I was small. I was never overweight. I just had extra chub, an extra layer of puppy fat, because that was my makeup. There's nothing wrong with that. And then through primary school, this kind of continued. I remember wearing certain clothes and feeling insecure. I remember this one time, it was a snow day at school, and it started snowing as we got into school, but I think our parents were told, bring spare changes of clothes for them in case it does snow and they have to go home, or something like that. I think it was because we were pretty sure school was going to get cut short, but I knew I was going to have to go to my childminders and also best friend at the time, their house, because my mum was at work. So there was this tight long sleeve t-shirt which I would wear to horse riding, but when I went horse riding and wore this t-shirt, I always wore like a light jumper over it. And I remember being in this t-shirt next to my friend who I'd always compared myself to her, and she was always a lot smaller than me, like naturally more toned. And I remember sitting next to her, and my first thought was, God, I look huge. I look really, really big next to her. And there've been photos taken of me, and you can see in the photos I'm like this. It's the first time I tried to cover up my body. I felt incredibly, what I now know is insecure and uncomfortable. And that's when I really decided, like, I started to use phrases like diets and eating healthy. So I must have been about 10 or 11. Then, to be fair, things went back to normal quite quickly. I had summers where I would eat junk food. I weren't really aware of caloric values. My mum did Slimming World, we'll get into that. So I had an awareness of what was healthy and what was unhealthy, and I had a pretty healthy diet apart from snacks. And I was very aware that, like, I would rather have a Slimming World meal. And now looking back, I realise it's probably the very first telltale signs I had of something that was clearly more than just insecurity. And I remember thinking, okay, if I have a Slimming World meal, that's fine. It means that I can have snacks. So obviously the good meal can cancel out anything else so I can have snacks. And I didn't feel food guilt at this time. I was just aware that I would feel more comfortable eating snacks if I had in my head what I perceived as a healthier, better meal. Now, that's not too bad, I don't think. I think it's good that children have an awareness of what's good food and what's bad food, but it's the intent that comes with it. And then when I started secondary school, I began to have more awareness of food consumption and what I was eating. I started to have a really unhealthy diet in the sense of I wouldn't eat breakfast. And that, I don't think that was always because I didn't have time. I also think it was a way that I could restrict myself, and I don't think at the time I realised that that was what it was. So I wouldn't eat breakfast. I would have a couple of snacks for lunch that I've chucked in my bag, and then I'd come home and have so much food because I'd be ravenous. So it was almost like a binge without realising it was a binge. And it wouldn't be horrendous amounts of food. It was still controlled. But I would get home ravenous, and then I'd have dinner, and then I'd then have a snack before bed. So I would kind of not fast, but almost fast in the mornings, and it wasn't intentional. But then that kind of become my natural eating habit. But I remember at this time I started to feel really insecure. Like I had more of an I'd always been insecure, but I had more of an awareness at this point what those insecurities meant and what that feeling was. I was aware that was insecurity. Wearing certain clothes, I felt uncomfortable. Wearing tight dresses. I remember bodycon dresses were really big, but it was before the likes of Pretty Little Thing and stuff. So you would kind of just get them from Primark or Miss Selfridge. And I had my first ever party to go to. I think it was a 12th or 13th. It might have been a 13th birthday party. And I'll insert a photo of the dress that I wore. And I chose that dress because I was so horrifically insecure. I couldn't face being in a bodycon because I thought in my head all people would see is a huge stomach. And that was kind of the real first time that my body completely ruled an outfit choice, completely ruled an outfit choice. And I would have still been 12 at this point. And prior to that, I did still feel insecure. I've always had cellulite. So even as a little girl, it wasn't puberty hit and I got cellulite. I've always had cellulite. And I remember feeling so insecure in the changing rooms at school. And I didn't get boobs until I was 16. So I'd be in this bra that wasn't filled. It literally was just a nipple underneath it. And my pants, and being so scared that somebody would see my cellulite, cripplingly scared. Yeah, also feeling uncomfortable about my stomach because I'd be like, oh my God, it's bigger than everyone else's, or there's rolls. And in my head, I was just this huge, ugly, disgusting thing. And I was the only person in the world my age that had cellulite and rolls and couldn't be seen dead in a bodycon dress because that would be the worst thing in the world. It'd be absolutely repulsive. Everyone would point at me and laugh. So then these thoughts they changed from just being every now and then to daily. I daily would have these thoughts of being bigger, not liking my body. And I started, do you remember when there was an era on YouTube where people would do eating like a Victoria's Secret model for a week? The Victoria's Secret model diet, when I first started watching Kardashians when I was 13, I started to become aware of diets in a concept that wasn't just Slimming World, wasn't just middle-aged women trying to shed a few pounds. It was more serious, and you could lose this amount of pounds in this amount of days and all of these things. So I found the other day notebooks I had from that era where I googled, this was before my fitness pal and all of that, I googled online the calories in fruit, veg, certain things that I liked eating, and I tallied it all up and I would plan my day based on the Victoria's Secret model diet. And this was the first time I really had a concept of good and bad foods, healthy and unhealthy, crash dieting. And it's things that I would tell myself, oh, I'm going on a diet, and then I obviously wouldn't stick to it. But it was something that started to become in my vocabulary because I thought losing weight would make me like myself, even though I had no weight to lose. And then this body dysmorphia stopped just then being physically, it was also my face. So I then started to become insecure about my nose and my cheeks and my forehead. Literally, like, my whole face then become an insecurity of mine. My hands then started to become an insecurity, my feet, my legs. Before I knew it, my whole body was this one big insecurity. Now, nobody up until this point had ever critiqued me on my looks. Yes, I'd always come second best to other girls in terms of physical appearance and for, like, boys to be attracted to. But nobody had ever outright said you're ugly or you're fat or any of those things. I was always being told by my family how beautiful I was, and I just didn't. And actually, to be fair, I remember as a child sitting around the dining room table, I must have been 6 or 7, sitting with my mum and dad saying, I'm not beautiful enough to be a model. I'm not beautiful. I'm ugly. And them saying to me, like, then them Googling models and showing me them, saying, like, you look no different to them, or, you know, they have flaws and it's important that you are accepting of your flaws. Like, you say you have flaws, but look, they have flaws too. And, like, that was actually a conversation I remember having as a child. And I remember when I was 11, I had said in a classroom that I'd wanted to, when I was younger, I had moments of wanting to be a model. I've always loved the camera and a boy really, really laughed and picked on me for it. So I guess there was moments of people being horrible about my appearance, but never to the point of, like, you're fat or you're ugly. When I was 14, the summer I was 14, I had written out a workout plan. It was combined of loads of different workouts I found on YouTube, abs, legs. It was about an hour long. And I promised myself I would do this every day, and I wouldn't be allowed to go to the park and have pizza if I hadn't done it. So that was my first kind of, you need to work out to get a reward situation. And over that summer, I didn't feel overly insecure in my body. I had a really good summer. It was just filled with me and my friends. So I was able to quieten the noise of not liking my body over that time period. But I did still have the thoughts of, you need to do this to get this. But at the same time, I still did allow myself pizzas. Like, we had pizza nearly every day. Like, I allowed myself nice things. And then the year my mum was getting married, we got a personal trainer. So me and my mum would use the personal trainer. Oh no, it was after that. Why did we get a personal trainer? I don't know, but we got a personal trainer. And no, because it was my prom that year. And I'd said to my mum, I hate my body. I hate my body. I had this real, at the time, hatred for my body. I would wear, and even, do you know what, the summer before that, I remember being in tight clothes and sitting down and having a pillow in front of me so people couldn't see my stomach. I was so hyper aware of my body. Like, if some of the boys tried to pick me up, I'd be like, but I'm too heavy for you. I'll be too heavy for you to lift. Like, in my head, I was so huge that they wouldn't be able to lift me. They'd try and I'd be a laughing stock, which obviously wasn't the case. So me and mum started healthy eating, and we got a personal trainer so that for prom I could feel confident. And I enjoyed the working out, I really did, but it didn't really alleviate any of my physical insecurities at all. I still felt incredibly insecure, and then we went on holiday a couple of weeks after prom. And I remember just hating the way I look, like walking around, like feeling awful, like, why do I look like this? Like, being in bikinis and just feeling like the worst ever. And I couldn't put a finger on why. Nothing alleviated it. And again, every day there was something new. I discovered I had stretch marks on that holiday on my legs, and I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Again, my cellulite, I was so embarrassed by my body, not even insecure, embarrassed. I had a very normal body for a teenager, but I think in my head, because people would say like, oh, when you're a teenager, you're the smallest you'll ever be. And I wasn't tiny when I was a teenager. I wasn't like this little stick. I was tight. I was small, but I wasn't like this little stick thin thing that people make you believe teenagers are. I felt embarrassed that I wasn't fitting the standards that I'd been told my body should be. And it really did affect me. It affected my enjoyment of that holiday completely. And I never wanted to be seen in a bikini. And I remember this one photo got taken when I was at secondary school, and we went swimming at our local outdoor pool, and somebody took a picture of the group, and I was in a bikini and I was sat down, and I had 3 rolls because I was like sat and slouched forward, so like my belly was really pushed out and visible, which is fine. But I remember, and I also, where I was sat, you could see my cellulite with my leg. I got home and I sobbed when I saw somebody put that on their Instagram. I sobbed and sobbed because I was like, I look disgusting. I looked like a normal body that was sat down. But in my head, I was like, I'm literally the worst thing in the world. I'm disgusting. And then the punisher mentality come in of like, you look disgusting, so now you need to punish yourself, because how could you let yourself get this way? And but anyway, it was just my normal body. I was eating healthy. I wasn't really exercising because I didn't really enjoy it. In sick form, I was then diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So this I then took steroids and I gained a lot of weight. And I felt really insecure, but I was also very okay with the fact that, okay, my body is looking like this right now because I'm taking medication, and because I was so unwell, I felt very comfortable with the fact that this is the way it is for now. Like, I felt okay. I also was depressed for other reasons, so my mind wasn't focused on my body because there was so much else going on. But I still remember caring what I looked like. I remember my granddad's funeral when I was 14. I was so bothered about how other people would perceive my body that I weren't really even in the moment at the funeral. Like, I was so worried about other people commenting that I looked good, which is insane. It's a funeral. Which just shows how consuming body dysmorphia can be. I just wanted somebody to give me some sort of validation, despite it being one of the saddest days. I continued to gain weight through lockdown and at university. And through lockdown, I actually felt a slight peace with my body. I started to be more open about my insecurities and the fact that I didn't look necessarily how was shown on social media, despite while I was on steroids, I photoshopped everything. I face tuned my face because obviously my face was rounder because of the steroids, but I also FaceTimed my waist and the size of my stomach and stuff. So yeah, I did. And then through lockdown, I kind of had this epiphany of like, life's too short. I think being just inside with my parents helped quite a lot because I didn't really care what anyone else thought. And then I went to university. And I didn't gain loads of weight at university, but I did gain some weight. And this really bothered me. I, at this point, probably felt the worst about my body I ever had. I was the biggest I'd ever been. And all my clothes didn't fit right. I just felt gross. I felt so awful. So I come home for the Christmas lockdown and I decided I was going to start to lose weight. I thought losing weight would change everything. It would fix me. It would make me love myself. It would make me happy. I was wrong. It doesn't do that. And it probably made me the most insecure I'd ever been. I started to have insecurities that I'd never had before. I had more of an awareness of food. Despite constantly my whole life saying, oh, I'm on a diet, I actually was on a serious diet that I was way too strict with myself on. And that screwed with my head completely. And it prevented me from having any sort of food freedom ever, because I become hyper aware of calories way more than I ever have been, hyper aware of exercise. And this was the thing that was different this time. I was doing lots of exercise and extremely cutting calories, so it was very, very extreme. And this led to me having an eating disorder. I was way too small. I was very unhealthy, yet I still hated my body. I still had extreme insecurities. I even had new insecurities along with the old ones. And I realised it doesn't matter how small I am, I'm never going to be happy with my body. And I just thought I was always going to have this hatred for my body. It was me versus my body. Like, my body was the enemy. And then after recovering from my eating disorder, and I'm still recovering, going to therapy, doing lots of self-work, I am slightly at peace with my body. I will always have moments of insecurity. Everyone does, it's normal. I will always have parts of my body I like less than others. But I don't have this whole feeling of hatred towards my body than I did before. I actually respect it and I love it. I don't always like the way it looks, but for me, the way my body looks is completely separate to how I feel about it. Whereas before, the way my body looks and my body were the same thing, whereas they're two completely different things. So what did I do to overcome body dysmorphia? And I don't think I've fully overcome it. I still have insecurities. I still have moments where I look in the mirror when I like my body and the next moment I hate it. And, you know, there are times, and even actually, to be fair, all the time, I will look in the mirror and think I look huge, and then I'll see a photo of myself from that same day in a different angle or someone else has taken, and I'll be like, oh, I'm not that big. And I will always have that. I think I've come to accept that, and I don't let that rule my life anymore like I used to. And I think that's the difference. It's how you cope and manage those feelings. So I have accepted that I'm never going to love my body 100% of the time, all the time. I've accepted that I don't need to love my body to feel like a fulfilled person, to love myself, to appreciate myself, to appreciate my body. Loving my body is a completely separate entity to who I am, to who I am as a person. I can exercise but not have to love my body. I can dress nice and not have to love my body. I can feel happy with myself and not have to love my body. And I think before, I thought that loving my body would make all of that happen. And that has had to happen on its own with a lot of self-work. And loving my body hasn't even come into that. And I'm the most at peace with myself than I ever have been. So it's starting with the things that are a lot easier for you to do that will then help that process of being so comfortable with yourself. I think that's what you want to strive to. Like, loving yourself is an extreme thing. And when people used to speak about body neutrality, I'd be like, what do you mean? Like, surely it's really important to love your body. But actually, you can still like the way you look without having that love for your body. Like, the love for the way you look. You can still look at yourself and go, oh, I look nice today, without loving the way you look. And because I think loving your body becomes extreme, it becomes obsessive, it can become passion. And then that will rule the others. I never used to understand it, I do now. And if you love your body, amazing, all power to you. But some of us can't get there. And body neutrality, for me, seems to be a good play. Sometimes it's love, sometimes it's hate. But if I can stay like 70% of the time with neutral, I'm doing a good job, because it used to be 90% hate, 10% love. To go along with this, knowing that I am more than the way I look. The way I look is the smallest part of myself. It's the least interesting thing about myself. When I die, people aren't going to be saying, she had a really flat stomach in summer of 2020 whatever. They're going to be saying she was kind, she was funny, she was empathic. You know, there's so much more to me than the way I look. And I thought that the most interesting thing about me when I lost weight would be my body. But actually it became my biggest enemy because it prevented me from having fun. It prevented me from like doing cool things. It prevented me from being me. So then it actually become my enemy. Instead of having body neutrality, it's just there. Like, it doesn't prevent me from doing anything. It's not my enemy. It doesn't get me anything. It's just there. And I can appreciate it on its good days, and I can also ignore it on its bad days. I also found that I thought I was going to lose loads of weight and boys would be flocking to me. They weren't, because for one, I didn't really go out, but also I was so guarded and unhappy and sad. I would have been the most horrific person to spend time with. I wasn't fun. I wasn't happy. I wasn't funny. I wasn't like ambitious. My focus was just on my body, and it made me not a very nice person. Listing things I like about myself that are separate to my physical appearance, I started to focus on the bits of myself I love that weren't related to how I look, and that changed the game. It made me realise that I loved myself, and the things that I loved myself for were not the way I look. My whole life, the way I'd look was priority, but actually flipping that narrative of like, I am more, like actually realising I'm more than this, not just saying it, really realising it, made a huge difference to how comfortable I was with the way I looked. Because if I had a bad body image day, it wouldn't ruin my whole life, because I'd be like, do you know what? That's fine, because I'm a really good person. I'm kind, I'm funny, I'm empathetic. It doesn't matter what my body looks like today. And if I need to chuck on a jumper to feel comfortable, I'll chuck on a jumper to feel comfortable. And that's the way I let my life lead now. Affirmations are really important. I love an affirmation. I think they have been key. I just say them to myself. If I notice a bad thought coming into my head, I counteract it with a good thought. This takes a lot of time to do automatically, but I've got it down now. It's taken a good couple of years. So if a thought comes in of like, well, you look really ugly, a thought of coming in of like, but you've got really nice eyes, or you're really funny, or you're a good person, counteracting that is really key to like getting rid of those thoughts and training them to not be the ruler. I have baby pictures of me on my big double mirrors on my wardrobe, so that when I am looking at myself in the morning when I'm trying on clothes, if I do say something nasty about myself, I'll catch a glimpse of baby me, and it will almost pull me in check, because I'm like, she's gorgeous, she's beautiful, she's amazing, and what she definitely is not, her body. So that really helps me to like stop those looking in the mirror just to be horrible to myself. I have affirmations on my mirror as well, so again, in the mornings, if I'm having a bad day, I'll read through them. It doesn't change it, but it does help. It takes a long time, but it does help. Wearing clothes that feel comfortable. So if I am having a bad body image day, I'm not going to force myself to wear really tight clothes that really show off my body, if that is just going to make me more uncomfortable. The same with, if I'm having a good body image day, then I will wear the tight clothes and be okay with that. I don't fight those feelings anymore, because I don't think, sorry, my feet are getting hot. I don't fight those feelings anymore because I don't think they're actually beneficial at all. If anything, I think, you know, forcing myself to wear tight clothes instead of just chucking on some nice baggy clothes is going to make the whole thought process around my body worse. It's going to make me feel more uncomfortable. Whereas if I'm having a bad body image day and I chuck on a pair of baggy jeans and a jumper, I don't even think about my body once, which then helps me alleviate any anxieties or being consumed by body dysmorphia, because I'm saying, do you know what? My body I'm not liking my body today, so I'm not even going to allow myself to think about it. I'm not going to make that a thing. I'm going to pretend in whatever way I can that it's not there and it's not happening. Exercising for my mental health and not my body. I'm not pushing myself to the very limit now of working out. Yes, I work out every day, but that is purely for my mental health. I do gentle exercise like Pilates and yoga and walking, sometimes a jog. and strength training. I'm not forcing myself to do HIIT workouts that make me feel unwell, that hurt my body and put it under strain, because that would just be me punishing my body. And that is a punisher mentality, which only fuels the body dysmorphia, because I'm telling myself, because I don't look good enough, I'm doing this to punish myself, because looking how I think I do in my head is a bad thing, which it's not. One really important thing is changing who you're following on social media, following body positive accounts. If you find any accounts you're following triggering, unfollow them. Coming off of social media and looking at real people, you will find that most of the people in your real life and out in public don't look like what you think the perfect body is because of social media. That has really helped me to realise that my body is normal. There's nothing horrific about it. It's not completely different to any other normal body. It's not strange. It's not repulsive. It is a normal woman body. And by realising that more people in your real life are what an actual human body should look like, and what social media portrays a human body is either posed, photoshopped, or they will spend their life to look like that, you start to realise that there is nothing wrong with your body. It is perfect how it is. And the most important thing is how you feel on the inside. The way you look on the outside does not matter. If you think about all the most important people in your life, your first thought isn't how they look. That's not why they're important to you. I completely changed who I followed. I completely changed my thought process when looking at people on social media. I now go in with, they are posed. I will take 100 pictures before I post one on social media. They're all the same. So if you're looking at a post on social media and you think, wow, why don't I look like them? You probably could look like them if you posed in the way that they're posing. That is so important to remember. I think social media has a lot to answer for our body image issues. Obviously, like I said, I've had mine since a child. Mine are definitely some sort of genetic imbalance and have nothing to do with social media, but that definitely didn't help. Well, that is all I've got to say on body dysmorphia. I hope this episode was helpful for you. I really do hope that you can reach out to help if you feel you need it, or you can try and include some of these habits that I've mentioned if you find that they will be helpful. They have really helped me. I do still have really bad days and actually really bad periods of time where I'm just like, get my body off of me. It feels horrific. But I've come a really long way, and I can see myself only continuing to progress. And if I can come to a place where most of the time I'm body neutral, I know for a fact that you will be able to do that. It takes time, it takes hard work, it takes persistence, it takes having knockbacks, but I promise you, it is possible. I'm sending you all so much love. Please reach out to the charities in the bio if you do need them. And I will see you all very soon. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye, guys.